if you'd take a minute and introduce yourselves, starting with Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Edwardson. I'm the Associate Planner.
Kyle Kearns, Director of Community Development for the city.
Jeff Marutz.
Lee Tall, Commission Member.
Eric Doven, Commission Member.
Madeline Palmquist, Alderperson.
Ben Goodrow, Commission Member.
Matt Zacher, Mayor.
Jeff Penscover, Alderman, District 4.
Dennis Pollock, 6th Ward Alderman.
Thank you. Item 1, we have the approval of the report from April 1st, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I got a motion to approve and a second by Davin. The motion was by Davin, the second was by Tao. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Item 2, 24-000340, Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools, public hearing and action on a request for a conditional use permit amendment to perform recreational site improvements at Wisconsin Rapids Area Middle School, 1921 27th Avenue South, parcel IDs 3404723 and 3404725. Kyle?
Thank you, Mayor. So the next three items are all conditional use permits relating to the school district. In our zoning ordinance, all pre-K through 12 schools operate as a conditional use. Anytime you make a change to the school district, increasing the impervious surface, things of that nature, they have to get a conditional use permit amendment. So those three items are before you tonight for that approval. The first one is the middle school. They're proposing to add new playground equipment, asphalt surface for basketball, some playground striping and so forth, and then a disc golf course. The property is zoned I-1 Institutional District, and again, the improvements only relate to recreational improvements. So there's no addition, there's no facility improvement here. Nonetheless, we still perform both the conditional use review as well as the site plan review. Here you'll see the playground area and the asphalt where the basketball courts are proposed. You can see the start of the disc golf course as well on the south side of this map. And then this is a larger view of the entire improvements. Again, these are internal to the site or more to the south of the site, well away from the street. And then this shows the far western disc golf courses. When we look at the conditional use standards of review, we feel as though all of them are met. It's a fairly large site. Traffic might increase slightly, but not much because it'll likely be students that are utilizing these facilities. There's already ingress egress to the site, and these are also considered accessory in nature, so they don't necessarily have to put in new landscaping and things like a new restaurant would have to put in. Again, a lot of things aren't required. There's no architectural review here. There's no lighting plan that's required, again, because these are accessory in nature, but we do feel as though they do meet the dimensional standards, again, because it is internal to the site. Nonetheless, we are still recommending that we have the ability to approve minor modifications and that they obtain necessary stormwater permits, which they are working towards with the engineering department. And then we're recommending approval with those two conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I open the floor up for a public hearing. I call all those in favor, in speaking in favor, to come up to the podium, one at a time. All those in favor? Please make sure the green light is on and state your name and address, please.
Edwin Allison, Buildings and Grounds Director, Wisconsin Rapids Schools.
2510 Industrial Street. Yeah, this is pretty basic, adding a 9-hole mini golf course and some play stuff for our kids. A little bit of extra asphalt for the basketball hoops and then around kind of to square off the new playground. So if any have any questions that I can clear up, I guess speaking in favor of it.
Any questions? Comments? Thank you.
Okay, I'll step back, you bet.
All right, so for the second time, I'm calling for anyone wishing to speak in favor of. And for a third time, I'm calling for anyone who's wishing to speak in favor. Now I'm opening to the floor to those who are opposed. Anyone who is opposed, please step forward. For the second time, anyone opposed? Please come to the podium.
Sarah Ebosher. I guess I'm not really sure, because based on the plans, what is it all affecting?
Kyle?
Are the wooded areas coming down? Where are they actually being placed?
So if you reference the monitors here, this is what's being showed now is the south side of the site. In the middle of this photo or rendering, you can see the proposed basketball courts and playground area. And then on the south side, you can see the disc golf courses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the next slide shows 7, 8, and 9 and their relative location. It's my understanding that some of that disc golf course will be in the wooded areas. I don't know exactly how many trees or anything needs to come down to accommodate the pads, the launch pads, or tee boxes for those. That could be something that maybe the applicant could speak to further.
Okay. So in relation, so I guess I'm not where, so the school then is?
The school is the light gray color.
Is the
there.
light gray
Yep.
color? Okay.
And so if you go back to the aerial photo here, on the far south side of those two parcels shown is where the improvements are being made. So the bottom of those pictures.
Okay. So I'm trying to get really, okay, so it's further back beyond,
It's behind the school.
it's behind the
Yep.
school that all the improvements are gonna be made?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I want.
Thank you.
Since I came up here. My name is Gino Carlson. I'm from Point of Beginning, and Point of Beginning did the site plan design for the 3 school projects. And so just to maybe shed a little bit more light on this particular site, there are existing kind of gravelled paths that go through that wooded area. The intent here is just to add some tee-off locations and some goal baskets for a disc golf course. There'll be some minimal tree removal, mostly deadfall, the way I understand it. The intent is to not disrupt the wooded area as much as possible.
Thank you. And I'll call for a third time. Anyone who wishes to speak against the project, please come forward now. At this point, I will close the public hearing and put it back to the Planning Commission. What are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve Plan 24-340 with the staff recommendations.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Donovan. Who seconded?
Goodrow.
Goodrow, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 5-0. Item 3, 24-000341, Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools, public hearing and action on a request for a conditional use permit amendment to perform recreational site improvements at Mead Elementary School, 241 17th Avenue South, parcel ID 3402835. Kyle?
Just to clarify, 6-0 on the motion. Mayor, you, I think, voted aye.
Thank you.
Yep. So the second request from the school district is for a Mead School. It's not as large of a parcel as you can see. It does not include a disc golf course, but it does include new playground equipment and new basketball court surface, asphalt surface. This is also zoned I-1 institutional district. As I stated before, it requires the conditional use permit amendment. Here you can see the improvements that are being made east of the school, shown here. Again, we feel as though the conditional use permits standards are met. They're not changing ingress, egress. The area is already somewhat improved. They're just expanding the area, the impervious surface area. Much of the area surrounding is residential. Again, these are accessory uses or accessory to the principal use, and therefore don't require architectural or lighting plans, things of that nature, or landscaping. So again, it's a pretty straightforward request. We find the standards to be met and are recommending approval with the same or similar conditions as the previous one. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I open up the public hearing. Calling in favor for the first time. Anyone wishing to speak?
Again, Edwin Allison, Buildings and Grounds Director, Rapid Schools, 2510 Industrial. And this one too is basically adding a basketball court for, bigger kids, and then we'll have some shorter hoops for the little guys. Replacing the playground equipment that's there with handicap accessible equipment, versus wood chips. This will have poured in place surfacing. We're also, to the northeast of the building, we're gonna build basically renovate a field for soccer. So I speak, I guess, for it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Myron. I live at 1530 Alton. I'm right across the street from this project. I am for it with a little bit of one exception. We have a problem of parents parking in the playground. And they already are parking on the new gravel for the pickleball court. There needs to be something done, and I understand there's a problem. And the problem is, the guy at 430 with Waste Management will not get out of the truck and open and close the gate. So they can't close off the schoolyard. It's now broken. The kids have managed to break it. In that area, to turn the truck around, he has to take half the parking lot out. This isn't so bad at 4:30 in the morning, but we have a problem of parents come in after school and they park all over the playground just so they can pick up their kid and leave. And by the time I call the police or anything, it's too late, they're gone. Another problem we have is the teachers, when you have an in-service day, will park their cars on the lot, on the playground. And I noticed last time, no kids came over to the playground. Well, there was all those cars, and the basketballs almost hit the back of the cars, bouncing off the backboard of the basketball court. Now, these kids end up running all over the neighborhood. They're using the teacher's parking to hang out, or they're running all over the neighborhood, getting into other things. And that's why I'm for this, because I think it's going to be a great asset to our West Side neighborhood. But I do think there's a little bit of issue on the parking that needs to be addressed. Something that could be open or closed as needed so that the city can get in, the school can get in and do their job, but the parents couldn't get in without, having special permission or the right to. And yet at the same time, and I came up with a fence idea to just go through between the school and the street. And I can show you my drawing I did, and I don't know if it'll work or not, but it's an idea. At the same time, the teachers do need to get in there in the morning sometimes when they're bringing stuff into the school for their daily lessons. Some of it is very heavy and hard to move, so of course they pull up by the door. Well, that's by the trash area, and I think if that could be sectioned out, that it could be open and left for the teachers in the garbage, I think, and the other things that come into the school, because there's also a back entrance for the custodians, then I think the rest of the playground could be pretty much sectioned off to just service vehicles only. And this is the only thing I have against this. Otherwise, I think the whole system is great, and I'm hoping it really goes through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I give you this drawing?
Thank you.
Gino Carlson, Point of Beginning, once again, just to maybe address some of that gentleman's comments. The vehicle usage was not contemplated as part of the playground design. However, there is some future considerations to improve some of the hardscape at this school, and I think, if that's next year or, in the foreseeable future, some reimagining of the fencing and gates at this location would certainly be a part of that design. So from a design standpoint, I do appreciate those comments, and we'll look at that when we continue to develop this site in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, for a third time, I'm calling on anyone wishing to speak in favor. All right, for the first time, anyone who is wishing to speak against? For a second time, anyone wishing to speak against? And for a third time, anyone wishing to speak against? At this time, I close the public hearing and I open the floor up to the Planning Commission. What are your wishes?
I'd make a motion to approve Plan 24-000341.
A motion by Tao and a second by Goudreau? Nope, sorry. Moritz. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 6-0. Item 4, 24-000342, Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools, public hearing and action on a request for a conditional use permit amendment to perform recreational site improvements at Pitch Early Learning Center, 501 17th Street South, parcel ID 3406281. Cal?
Thank you. Again, very similar request. New playground equipment, picnic tables, and asphalt are proposed here. Very similar situation again with regards to zoning and the use. Here's the site plan showing the improvements. A little bit smaller scale, just given the building and the use is a little bit smaller as well compared to the other two. Again, we feel as though both the conditional use standards and the site plan review standards are met, given these are just playground equipment and asphalt, no changes to driveways. Again, no additional standards that we typically see in new construction, no lighting plans, no architecture is required here. So again, we are recommending approval with the same conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'm opening up the public hearing, calling on anyone in favor to come up and speak.
Again, Edwin Allison, Buildings and Grounds Director, Rapids Schools, speaking in favor. Yeah, this one's just adding some handicap accessible playground equipment. We have our 4K site over there, so more age appropriate than the stuff that's there now. That was a K6 building originally, so yeah, just speaking in favor of it.
Thank you. Calling for the second time, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Calling for the third time, anyone wishing to speak in favor? Calling for the first time, anyone wishing to speak against? Calling for the second time, anyone wishing to speak against? And calling for the third time, anyone wishing to speak against? At this time, I'm closing the public hearing, and I'm turning it over to the Planning Commission. What are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to approve Plan 24-000342, staff recommendations, with the following conditions, 1 and 2, in the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Goodrow and a second by Palmquist. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 6-0. Item 5, 24-000301, Greg C. Hepp and Lori J. Hepp request for a special exception to allow an accessory building in front of a principal building in the mixed residential R2 district at 511 South 14th Street, parcel ID 3406904. Kyle?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, a reminder, there is no public hearing with this. This is just an exception to build an accessory, detached accessory structure within the 5-foot area. So typically, detached structures have to be 5 feet behind the principal structure, behind the home, so that the home is the dominant feature along the street frontage. In this case, the applicant's got a fairly narrow lot. They're looking to build that accessory structure. We've also done a setback average. So in developed areas, infill neighborhoods, they can have a reduced street frontage setback by pursuing what's called a setback average, where they apply to our department. We look at all properties within a 300-foot radius, and we take an average of the setbacks for structures within that area. In this case, this typical setback from the street is 25 feet. The setback average reduced it down to 21 feet, so they can build to that 21-foot setback. In doing so, that does not maintain the 5-foot setback behind the principal structure. So they'd like to encroach within that approximately 2 to 3 feet, so that, again, they can get closer to the road and allow for more of their rear yard. In reviewing this, we don't feel as though it's negative to the neighborhood. Again, this is an older home, an older neighborhood. A lot of the homes don't meet the setbacks. They have accessory structures that are close to the home, close to the road, so I don't think in any way this is detrimental, and staff is recommending review. I think this is a few examples of other accessory structures in the neighborhood that are either match the principal structure or slightly behind. So again, it does exist already within that neighborhood. Again, it's I don't know if I mentioned it, 24 by 26 foot structure. So about a two-stall accessory structure. With that, we are recommending approval with the condition that it just meet all the other standards. For example, you can't have one higher than 15 feet. It's got to be on hard surface if there's vehicles that are entering and exiting the structure, and obviously meet all the other building code requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to grant the special exception.
I have a motion by Dobbins, second by Moritz. Any other questions or comments before we move to vote? Seeing none, I move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 6-0. Item 6, 24-000247, Neiman Service Incorporated, public hearing and action on a request for a conditional use permit to construct a building addition for a towing business vehicle repair shop at 2141 West Grand Avenue, parcel ID 340-3426, 2111 West Grand Avenue, parcel ID 340-3425, and an unaddressed parcel on 21st Avenue South, parcel ID 340-3428. Kyle.
Thank you. Before I provide a summary of the request, I want to hand out some items that were provided by the applicant after we had posted the agenda. These were sent to you in an email on Friday, both to the commission and alders. They will also be made part of the meeting minutes, so they'll be on record as well for the public to view. They are basically a narrative in regards to parking, an updated landscaping plan, an updated site plan, and updated building elevations. Some of you may recall, if you were on Plan Commission within the last couple of years, that we had amended the definition of vehicle repair shop to include a towing business. Previously, towing was nowhere identified in our zoning ordinance, and staff felt as though it was important to identify because it is somewhat similar to auto repair, but as I'll note later, there are differences, primarily I think when it comes to parking and customers. So towing was included during that time as an amendment to the zoning code under the definition of vehicle repair shop. This property is zoned B2 commercial, and vehicle repair shops are a conditional use within that B2 commercial district. And the applicant is requesting to put on an addition on the east side of the facility, henceforth the reason it's before the Plan Commission and ultimately Common Council. You'll see 3 parcels here. They've recently combined these 3 parcels into one parcel, so it is no longer 3, it is 1, and that's how it was reviewed, even though 3 parcels may be mentioned within the staff report. Ingress, egress will change slightly. There'll be a driveway that's being proposed on the east side of the site. I'll get to that a little bit later here. But again, currently they operate this towing facility. They were on a much smaller footprint, but again are expanding into those additional parcels to the east. One thing that is not expanding and is not allowed under this district is the salvage yard. So the salvage yard that currently exists south of their facility, that's grandfathered into the ordinance, and that cannot be expanded even with a conditional use permit. They can, however, continue to operate that salvage yard. It's fully enclosed, but the addition in no way affects that salvage yard. The addition primarily is to store some of their trucks and just have additional service bays for their trucks to house the trucks and equipment and so forth. It is a pretty tight site, and the applicant is here and can probably speak to that better than I can. So what you're looking at in the handouts, or what you were provided previously, is an updated site plan. The most recent site plan shows some additional blacktop so that they're able to come off of West Grand Avenue, enter the property from west to east to be able to then back their trucks into the proposed addition. You'll see the proposed addition there called out. Then they're also requesting a driveway along 24th, I believe, 21st Avenue South. And that driveway has been shortened so that it meets the 36 maximum width requirement. One thing to note here, they're showing 49 feet from the property line. The city engineer does require a 50-foot setback because West Grand Avenue is a main arterial street. They need 50 feet before the driveway. So they could either, moving forward, reduce that width down to 35, or they could shift the driveway a little bit further south. We've added that as an additional condition of approval. I don't have a huge concern because it's only the difference of 1 foot. Here you'll see an updated landscaping plan. They previously did not provide one. We've identified that street frontage plantings are required for the area that's being affected, so the new lots, essentially. And then they also have to meet the building foundation landscape requirements, which they're showing to be met. Here you can see the requirements on the top left and what they're proposing there. They don't identify species, and we've approved plans before where they can identify species prior to them going in. The last major handout was the updated renderings. So previously, this was a metal-sided, metal-roofed building. In our architectural standards, we do require 50% of the street-facing facade to have architectural elements. So they have incorporated some windows, a service door, an awning, and some stone veneer along both the northern and the eastern face. Coupled with the garage doors, the metal roof, I think this would suffice for that architectural requirement. So here we are recommending approval now. Previously, we recommended to postpone, but with the updated information, we feel as though it is appropriate. They are meeting the standards, or they can, through these conditions, which is pretty long, but essentially they have to meet 36-foot width, which they show as the maximum driveway width. They need to have a 50-foot setback from the intersecting right-of-way on Grand Avenue for their driveway. The other thing that I didn't note yet is that they're not currently meeting the parking ratio. The parking ratio identifies they need 15 parking stalls. However, as a towing business, they don't have customers coming to drop cars off and repairing things, so they don't have a lot of customer traffic, and they operate a little bit different. When there is somebody there, I think they're likely there either to pick up a vehicle, so it's usually via appointment, or there's typically only one customer there at a time. So I believe they've got 3 parking stalls identified, one being handicap, and they're asking for Plan Commission to grant an exception to the parking requirement, which Plan Commission can do for a lower amount. And what they're requesting is a parking ratio of 3 be acknowledged and approved by the Plan Commission. And you'll see one of the handouts they provided was a narrative describing that need and how their business operates a little differently. They've identified, they've submitted some lighting information as well on some wall pack units that they're putting up. We just leave that condition on. In the event that things change, we have the review authority to approve it. They've submitted a landscaping plan which does meet the requirements. The last exception that they need is that overhead doors typically are not supposed to face a street. However, Plan Commission can grant an exception to allow overhead doors to face a street. In this case, they're facing the side street of 21st Avenue South rather than Grand Avenue. We feel as though it is appropriate to grant that exception and are recommending such. They've updated their rendering to identify those facade materials, and they are obviously going to get any stormwater permits through the engineering department. The last condition is typical, and that is one where we ask that you allow staff to approve minor modifications. If they need to change their landscaping plan or modify something, minor amendments could be approved by us. So overall now, again, we are changing our recommendation from postponement to approval with these conditions, acknowledging the updated plans that have been submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'm opening it up to a public hearing. Call for any of those in favor to step forward.
My name is Amber Neiman. I'm here for Neiman Service. Just here to answer any questions or clarify anything. We got that information in late last week for you guys to look at, so just here to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question about shifting the driveway back. I understand that it's just 1 foot, but I see on your drawings that the way you have the driveway placed at 36 feet aligns with the end of what is the proposed new addition. Does shifting that back impact the building layout where you have the doors planned?
Not really. They're not going to be lined up perfectly straight. The reason that 49 foot was marked on there is because there is a current driveway there for where the house used to be. So we just kind of went off of where that current driveway was and measured to the corner of the street there, and it just happened to be 49 feet. And I wasn't aware of that 50 feet, otherwise I probably would have clarified that better in that drawing, but
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Thank you.
thank you.
I call for a second time. Any of those in favor, step forward. And I call for a third time. Any of those in favor, step forward. Calling for the first time. Any of those opposed, step forward. Calling for a second time. Any of those opposed, step forward. And for a third time, anyone opposed, step forward. At this time, I am closing the public hearing, and I am putting it back in the Planning Commission's table. Any, what are your wishes?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, to Kyle. Now that they've updated some of the things that your staff has looked at in the agenda packet, which recommendations are still standing then, and which ones are somewhat obsolete now that the applicant has worked through some of those issues?
Yeah, I mean, I would advise just adopting it with the 11 conditions.
Okay.
But technically, if you didn't want to, you could pull the landscaping condition. If you felt the facade was met, you could pull the facade condition number 9. You could also pull the lighting plan, because they did submit some details on lighting. So those 3 you could pull if you deem them as being met. The 3 regarding the exceptions, so the parking should stay in there if you're going to approve the parking, just so that we have a track record that this approval includes that exception, the overhead door exception, and the driveway, obviously the 50 feet would need to be kept in there, minor modifications, and then a stormwater permit.
No, that helps clarify it. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
Number 1, the proposal says not to exceed 36 feet, but you're saying the condition should say 50 feet from the corner?
So the driveway itself cannot exceed 36 feet at the right-of-way, so at the property line. But that driveway has to be 50 feet from the corner of the intersection.
So as it's written for number 1, that would cover,
So number
What you're
1
recommending.
covers the driveway width, number 2 covers the 50-foot setback.
number 2 here talks about parking.
Number 2 up here.
Oh,
So yes, this was a condition we added
okay, I was looking at the
after we
packet.
got their updated plans and talked to the engineer. Yes, condition 2 here shown on the screen, I'm sorry,
Okay,
is what's been added.
Kyle, are those new conditions included in this at all?
In the handout?
Yeah.
They are not. This is the first time you're getting to see the new conditions. Really, the only one that's changed is number 2 regarding the 50-foot driveway.
So I think I can do this without numbers. I'm going to make a motion to approve Plan 2400247, including approval of the reduced parking ratio, the overhead doors facing the street, the permits being obtained, the revisions, and the driveway being 50 feet from the
Intersection.
Westgate. Yeah, intersection, thank you.
Is that everything you need for the motion?
Yep.
I'll second.
Was that Eric? I got a motion by Palmquist, second by Davin. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 6-0. Item 7, City of Wisconsin Rapids, 24-000276, public hearing and action on the request from the City of Wisconsin Rapids to amend Chapter 11 zoning ordinance, specifically Appendix C zoning districts and dimensional standards to adjust R3 district standards for single-family uses. Kyle?
Thank you. About a year ago, we amended the ordinance to allow for single-family uses within the R3 district. So typically, the R3 district was our low-intense multifamily district. So think anywhere from 3 to 15 units. However, a lot of our R3 district area is on the edge of neighborhoods. Some of it is in and around Witter Park, and a lot of those homes are currently single-family. And so if somebody wanted to take one from multifamily down to single-family, they were prohibited in doing so. And council previously identified, well, it would make sense for them to do that. They're reinvesting in an old historic home. They're keeping it in a residential state. And so we approved single-family within that R3 district. However, at that time, we did not amend the R3 dimensional standards to incorporate single-family standards. And you'll see on the next slide here, single-family, so this is, in every district, we have a fact sheet that identifies the setbacks for that district, street frontage requirement, lot width, lot area, building height maximums. Single-family was not identified after we approved the use. So now we're coming back after the fact to incorporate single-family throughout this appendix item, this fact sheet for the R3 district. You can see there that we're basically taking the standards from the R2 district, which is our single and two-family district, and incorporating them within the R3 district. So we're calling out single-family as well, where previously it wasn't called out, and basically incorporating those similar standards.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it up to a public hearing. All those in favor, please step forward.
Katie Bailey, 411 6th Street South. So I am here because my husband and I own a property that would be positively impacted by this adjustment. We've been working on renovating our home for the last year on 6th Street and found that it previously had a carriage house that is listed on the State Historical Society. And what we're hoping to do is to bring these elements back into the garage. So our intention from the beginning when we purchased the property was to bring it back to its former glory. And by having this adjustment, we would be able to do so and also have it work for our family. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I call a second time. All those in favor, step forward. And a third time, all those in favor, step forward. Call for the first time. Any opposed, step forward. Second time, any opposed, step forward. And a third time, any opposed, step forward. At this time, I'm closing the public hearing, turning it over to the Planning Commission. What are your wishes?
Make a motion to approve the amendment to Chapter 11 as outlined.
I have a motion by Davin.
Second.
I have a second by Palmquist. Any other questions or comments, concerns?
I have a question after we vote. It's okay to wait until we're done.
Okay, anybody else? No? Seeing none, I move to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 6-0. Maddie?
I was just curious on how long it takes to get that updated and published, because while we had one person speaking for it today, I'm sure this would impact other houses in our community who are seeking to do the same thing.
So with any ordinance amendment, conditional uses as well, and there were 4 tonight, Plan Commission makes a recommendation to council, so council will have the final say on the 3rd week of May. I don't know the date offhand, but the 3rd Tuesday of May, both the conditional uses and this ordinance amendment will be final. So we could issue permits on those things as soon as council approval.
All right. All right, item 8, adjourn. What are your wishes?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Tal, second by who? Martz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 6-0. Thank you, everybody.